Okay, I'm recording now.
Awesome. I'll have to admit, it took me a little while to kind of really figure out top 10 because I've never been very good at really itemizing my ultimate favorites into a list like this. I've just never been
Right.
very good at picking
I do mine in categories.
categories. Oh, that makes it kind of easier, but
So you
That's
think
good.
you think of science
I
fiction, action, thriller, and then you got
Yeah,
horror,
that's a good way to do it.
comedy, romance. I don't not that
yeah,
I'd
no,
watch any romancy shit, but
that makes sense. No,
that's how I do mine.
I could dig that a top 10 of a
Well,
certain genre. That would have been a pretty good idea.
and I've got that as well. So, so you
Ah,
got
I just
I've
did a
got
general.
categorized top tens.
Oh, that would have been.
But yeah,
I
I'll do
didn't
the
even think of that.
we can
God, I
we
feel
can do
really
it all,
dumb.
can't we?
No, so that's true.
Well,
That's true. That this is all bonus stuff at the minute. I just thought we kind of have a little hash it out before I chuck us in, because we'll do obviously the intros. I kind of like the what have we watched this week kind of to start with. I'm kind of liking that because that way it just kind of gets us straight away talking about television and films. Then from there we kind of just gel into to whatever we have planned. I think that's hopefully what we're gonna end up doing this
so
time.
it,
We'll see how it goes.
it
Yeah,
gives us a nice bounce off. Gives us
yeah,
nice
yeah.
bounce off points. We can
Right,
go
right.
for
Especially
tangents
because it's
from
still like fresh in the mind and everything. I think it's the like they say, it's a good bouncing point. Absolutely.
yeah. Cool. Well, so that's the format to start with, yeah.
All right, I'll chuck us in professionally then. Hello and welcome to the third ever episode of Dad and Lad in Movie Land. This is the lad Nathan talking with his dad Mark.
This is the dad talking with his lad Nathan.
And this week we're joined by a special guest. His name is Anthony Bennett. He's if you know anything about my previous podcast or previous workings on YouTube and that, we do a bit of urban exploration and history seeking. And I know he's had a little bit of background in, well, I mean, filmography. Really, you've made a couple of little films yourself, haven't you? And you do like a stop motion as well.
That's how I started. Yes, it was
Yeah.
in 5 second stop motion animation.
Yeah, so I thought you'd be a great addition to this week's podcast. We're happy to have you.
That does sound
Glad to
does
be
sound
here.
interesting.
Right. Shall we start with what have we watched this week? Yeah, Dad, why don't you take us away?
Well, okay. So my memory doesn't go back very far because I'm very old now. So I probably can just about remember what I watched yesterday. I watched a really interesting film. Again, I've been watching a lot of old films because I've got this special feature technology that allows me to watch pretty much any film I want quite easily, as long as there are available copies. So yesterday we watched a film called Three Faces of Eve, which dates back to the. Oh, I need to get IMDb up. Really, it's a late 50s,
Right.
and it's a true story of a lady that had multiple personality, what we would now call multiple personality disorder. And it was fascinating. I
Right.
thought we might have seen that before. We both thought there's a possibility we've seen it before, but with it being such an old film, and we like old films, me and your mum, but no, actually, it was something we'd never seen before, and it was really quite interesting, really quite intriguing. So there was that, and it was kind of in a similar sort of vein to what we watched the night before, which was a classic called from the 50s called Suddenly Last Summer, based on a Tennessee Williams play starring Elizabeth Taylor as another woman who was being, not a true story this time, you know, it's based on a Tennessee Williams play, but it was about a woman who was accused, at least, by a family of being psychotic and needing, you know, she was kind of in line to get lobotomized, and
right.
she was a little bit confused and upset about it at first, but then as time progressed, she
I can
managed to
imagine.
demonstrate to the doctor who was played by Montgomery Clift, and this is a really good kind of duo. It wasn't quite Liz Taylor, Richard Burton, which was a classic duo of the film, business in the 60s. But it was in the 50s. Montgomery Clift and Liz Taylor made a couple of films together, and they had some pretty good chemistry. Katharine Hepburn also was in this movie and played a very good part. She played the kind of meddling auntie who wanted to get this Liz Taylor character put away and lobotomized. And that starts off on a premise which is quite disturbing. You think, how is she going to get out of this? Is she going to get out of this, etc., etc. So that was made in 1959. It's called Suddenly Last Summer, and it's definitely worth a watch. And even the other one, Three Faces of Eve. Is it Three Faces of Eve? Just checking now. Yeah. Three Faces, yeah, Tracy said it is. Yeah, and that was made in 1957, and that stars Lee J. Cobb. Sorry, Anthony, what were you saying?
That rings a bell, that movie.
Yeah, it's got one of those names that's kind of, you think you're sure that you've heard of it, seen it, or at least heard of it. I've definitely heard of it before, but I thought I could have sworn I'd seen it, but never have seen it. There's another film from a similar sort of era with a similar sort of name, which is what's that Bette Davis film called? Eve, All About Eve. Which is a classic as well, which is also worth watching. But I won't go off on that tangent just yet. Yeah, this film, Lee J. Cobb plays the Doctor. Joanne Woodward plays a brilliant performance as the three different personalities of this in one lady. And yeah, it's nice, kind of nice little paced movie, quite interesting. I definitely enjoyed it.
That's good. Okay. Yeah,
so that's probably main ones that I've seen this week. We've seen some others, but at the top of my head I can't remember. They're the ones that kind of stand out.
That's
the
fair.
ones the last couple of days. We see the quality of those films seems to be a little bit better than what we've been watching. We tend, we're kind of hit and miss watching films we're not really sure about.
Yeah.
The quality of those were definitely very good.
Okay. That's quite good. So you're really focusing on like kind of the 1950s era at the minute. Are you kind of like trying to see as much of them as possible? Is there like maybe a lot of them that you haven't seen that you're really interested in seeing, or is it like things that you might have seen before and you're trying to recollect? Is there like a purpose behind it?
It's really more the second one. It's basically, we both minimum we like classic movies. I like films going back to the 30s, 40s, 50s. I've always liked them, and I've watched most of the famous names, most of the big titles, the kind of the big box office successes. I've watched most of them, but there's always like today, like today we were saying, there's 365. There's a movie being released every day, so every year, there's a handful. There might be a dozen, might be a dozen and a half well-known films that everybody's seen or most people have seen. But then just that's only 10 or 12 out of 300 plus. Then there's at least a few more, 2 or 3 more dozen films made that aren't as famous, and they kind of sometimes pass you by. And I'm fairly well up to date with most of the noughties and the early 2010s, etc. of the more obscure films. I've still got loads to see, but I'm fairly up to date with those. But what occurred to me recently, especially when we got this device that lets us watch old films, is that there's going to be quite a lot from an era that classic films that we like black and white films and things like that we like the style, we like the genre, but with the era. But there's going to be films that that might be pretty good that we've never actually seen. So here's an opportunity to go and hunt some down that we've not seen before, and check them out. And so we're looking for films we haven't seen. Occasionally we'll watch a film that we love that we have seen. Like for night before last, we put a film on really to help us get to sleep, and that was a film called Night of the Demon. That's one that we both like. It's a very popular one for both me and your mum, and that's highly recommended. It's a great film if you haven't seen it. Night of the Demon. That's sometimes goes by.
Sounds like something I'd like to watch.
It sometimes goes by the Curse of the Demon. That's also 1957. It's listed in IMDb as Curse of the Demon. I think that was the American title for it, but it's Night of the Demon. It's about a investigation of this kind of devil worshipper who's putting curses on people, and it's actually really well put together. Really a good treatment of the subject matter, and one of the better kind of horror mysteries of the late 1950s. That if you haven't seen it, I'd absolutely recommend it. But we just put it on. We've seen it many
It
times.
sounds really good. Definitely sounds
Yeah,
right.
it is. It's got a great atmosphere to it. Yeah, I think you'd enjoy it. It's very atmospheric, and it's yeah. So that's there's 3 right there from the 50s that are worth a look.
That's really cool.
So what about yourself, and what about Anthony? What have you guys been up to, watching wise, film wise?
Yeah, let's ask Anthony what he's been watching this week.
Mainly comedies at the moment.
Yeah.
Like
Any that you can remember, or
not really. They're all stand-up, so there's not really anything like.
that's all right.
to go into.
That's still something you watched. I mean, if there's
But
anything.
there was a
no?
documentary on The Exorcist I rewatched
Oh right.
because it was the
That
hype when
sounds
it
interesting.
first came out. Yeah, when it first came out in the cinemas back in the I can't remember when that
70s.
came out. Yeah,
70s.
70s.
the people used to pass out and find it really horrible. The
Yeah,
subject
it was
matter.
like incredibly shocking at the time, wasn't it?
So I rewatched that the other day and I was like, okay, I can see why it was like that back then because nothing else has come out like that. But looking
Exactly,
back at it from
exactly.
this era, you're like, oh, well, that's not scary. It's quite funny
Mm.
because we've grown up with all the parodies that people have made, the comedy
Yep.
parodies, Scream.
Yeah, we've definitely been more exposed to very shocking horror things. I think
Yeah.
we're more desensitized. You're quite right.
Yeah. So yeah, that was what I watched recently.
Well, that's interesting.
But what was the documentary that you watched about it?
It's called How Scary Was The Exorcist Back in that year it came out.
Ah, right, okay. Yep.
You'll find that you find it on YouTube.
Ah, right. No,
Yeah.
YouTube does have some good documentaries. That's true.
Yeah, when sometimes you're just glancing through it. Oh, that's a nice thing to
Yeah.
gets my attention. I'll have a look at that.
And some
then
of them
it's
can
like,
be quite well made. No, you're quite right.
yeah, on how like it was apparently it was based on a true story, but who knows really?
Yeah.
So,
Still sounds like a good watch, though.
it's definitely a good documentary to watch.
Yeah. Oh.
There is a film, Anthony, about the actual story that it's supposedly based on. I'm trying to remember what I'll have a think through, see if I can remember what it's called. And it came out a few years later, I think. And there might have even been a variation on it earlier, but I'll see if I can find that. And just out of the interest, if there was anybody that's curious about what was the actual event, 'cause it was a little bit different. That actually inspired Friedkin to bring it out.
Yeah, the guy wrote a book. The actual guy that
The
I don't know
author.
if he directed it or not. Yeah, it was based on his book, but he wouldn't allow anybody else to touch the movie without his input.
Mm.
I can't remember what his name was.
William Peter Blatty. I'm only saying that not because I'm brainy, but because I've got IMDb in front of me and I've got the information in
Handy.
front of me.
Good timing.
No, that it is
Yeah.
good to have that. Yeah,
That's quite right. You got to look up these things because, like we all say, there's so much more information that goes into films and television.
exactly.
You can't just remember all of it on the fly. It's quite right. You have
And
to
then-
be able to look this stuff up.
And then look when you are looking up these things, you get more into what it leads you into. So
Yeah.
like, it can
Yes.
give you off to another
Yeah,
director
exactly.
or a book author.
Yeah,
or,
similar
Yes.
styles or people, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I like about.
I mean, for example, bit of trivia. Me too. Bit of trivia for you. So in our earlier podcast, Nathan, I think episode 1, we talked a bit about the superb actor Max von Sydow because he just happened to be in a film that we were talking about, we were discussing, and then I mentioned the fact that he was in this famous Scandinavian classic called The Seventh Seal. He was also in Shutter Island. He also
Yeah.
played Jesus Christ in the Great Story of It. Well, he's in The Exorcist. He plays the older, in The Exorcist, there's a younger priest and an older priest.
Yeah.
And Max
yeah.
von Sydow plays the older priest.
Oh.
So you got some kind of some Hollywood royalty there, if you want.
I know, yeah, that is
How
full. Yes,
about
it
that?
is full of really good actors.
How about that? What a good
Yeah,
time.
it is.
And then you go into like the special effects, the makeup artists. You could be there for hours.
Quite right. what makes it so fascinating. That's why this podcast is so much fun. We just spout on about anything, and we can learn so many interesting facts and, like my dad says, trivia.
And we generally do.
It's just incredible.
When I was doing that media studies at college, this is how I had to break down films right away.
It is. I mean, if you you were saying about the author, William Peter Blatty, not being very, very sensitive about the material, making sure that he had to have input because he wanted to make sure it was perfectly right. I think also there's also, I don't know if it was him or it might have been actually the director, William Friedkin, who I happen to remember because I'm a fan of Genesis, and especially I'm a fan of the band Genesis, and I'm a fan of the early Genesis when Peter Gabriel was a key member.
Me too.
And I remember around the time he was leaving, around the time he was leaving Genesis, the back end of the 70s, was around the time this was being made, and he was talking to the director. The director was talking to him. They were thinking about working on a project together, and actually Peter Gabriel going off and doing that and visiting the States and talking about this separate project for himself is one of the things that created tension between him, ironically, and the Genesis band, and one of the things that led to him leaving the band, which is just a curious little side, as we're talking about, little side trivia piece to do, little story along the side of The Exorcist.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, like I said, that film, that was what I've watched recently. So it brought me back into what I originally got liking into movies.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, that's
cool.
one of them. I can't find it now. But yeah, no, it was a good documentary, that one.
Yeah, I'll be looking for it. I'm scanning through. There's quite a few on YouTube relating to The Exorcist, isn't there? It's a bit like there's around the same time. There's one of my all-time favourite movies, which will show up on my list a bit later today, was made around the same genre and the same sort of time. And there's lots and lots of stuff on YouTube about that. I won't mention it because it's a spoiler for later on in the podcast.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
No.
So Nathan, what about you? What have you been watching this week?
He's toilet break.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone for toilet.
He does that quite often. That's the second time in 3 podcasts that he's disappeared for that reason.
That's quite right.
He can't take it with him.
Look, sometimes you have a tiny bladder, and it's just what you have to deal with. It's my curse.
Well, only for me. I only find that's the case if I'm filling it with happen to be filling it with alcohol around the time we're doing the conversation.
Yeah, that's basically what ties into mine as well. But I have no shame.
All right, so that's happening. So you guys are drinking then. So I'm here.
No,
I'm here drying my bed, getting prepared for.
Look, I've earned this beer. Okay.
Yeah, he's been stuck in front of the computer.
Yeah, I had to do a very long management course today. Thank you very much. It was incredibly fun.
Slaving over a hot computer.
It was. Yeah.
That's the one.
Oh, you found it.
Yeah.
Why was The Exorcist so scary to audiences of 1970 something? Okay, by Cinema Tyler. Okay, well, there you go. Not a shout out, but Anthony says Cinema Tyler, really good. So yeah.
Why was The Exorcist so scary to audiences in 1973? And it says it's got no spoilers in it, which is pretty impressive.
Oh well,
I'm going to put it in my my watch later library.
That's quite something, because I mean, especially when you have to think about it in this day and age. Oh no, I guess when you think of younger people, they definitely wouldn't have seen it.
No, you think about it back then. It was a different time. I don't know. I wasn't.
No. I was making a comment about the no spoilers part, and I'm like, well, who doesn't know how The Exorcist goes at this point in time? But then again, like I was just saying, there's a lot of young people who will not have seen it. Probably will not see it because it's too old of a film now, and it's like, well,
and there's no interest.
Yeah, which is a shame because it was, it was a fantastic film.
It is one of the classics of that genre, really.
And exactly right, and it is exactly a classic to that genre, 100%. And to your point as well, Anthony, that back in that day, people now will not react the same way as they did back in the day, and they won't be able to experience the film in the same way that people did back in the day, when it was quite shocking and disturbing and something very new for watching on film for most people.
God, especially going to a movie theater back then, when it's like that was such a big event. Like these days, I mean, you can go see a film in a cinema almost every single day, but back then it wasn't. You couldn't really go every single day. Yeah. Like it was a treat. So to have like such a major audience, actually, they all make their way to go see a film, and it's like, oh well, it's not even like they had so many options in the cinemas back then anyway. So they're making this decision to watch something that they know very little about. And they go in and they're just so absolutely blown away and shocked, and like Anthony was saying, people were like passing out, and who knows what other kind of reactions they were having, because it's like this is a big deal for them, and they go in and they're watching something that they had absolutely no idea what it was going to be like. Like we get trailers nowadays, we get people telling us what things are going to be like. We have expectations, we know what it's going to be like, but back then you didn't really have all that. You had maybe like a personal account what somebody else had told you, or maybe you read in the newspaper about what something could have been like, but you didn't really have exactly the same access to trailers and an idea of what you were walking into.
You did have some access to trailers. I mean, it wasn't exactly the Dark Ages, but the key with this film is the subject matter. There never really had been made a film about an exorcism, an actual real life exorcism, no. And it is over the top a little bit, obviously, with the makeup and the special effects.
Didn't even know what an exorcism was. Yeah.
Well, no, in that documentary, they were saying about that he didn't want any of the special effects, like of the makeup being shown before the movie got
like as authentic as possible.
So
and stuff, right?
There were press in there with cameras, and they took screenshots.
Yeah, but exactly, that's my point. He didn't want to reveal too much early on. Exactly. So a lot of people going into this, who whether you knew what an exorcism was or not back then, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's going to be about a priest's journey through, like, trying to treat a person or something, and to other people, like, oh, okay, well, he's exorcising a person. Ooh, they have a demon or possessed by a ghost or something. But they clearly didn't know exactly what they were walking into. And I mean, like we all said, it is. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like super graphic, but it is graphic. It is graphic content. It can be quite shocking and jarring for people who just have absolutely no idea, nor have seen that kind of stuff before. Like I said, it was very new at the time.
Exactly, and these days you can't move. You can't go to a horror film it's remotely supernatural in its content, in its subgenre, or it's somewhat demonic or whatever, without there being some exorcism kind of activity going on. So it's such a common thing to see in films these days. It's become cliche, and part of what caused that becoming cliche was this film that triggered that whole kind of sequence of, which continues to be. It's a bit like the first ever vampire film. Wow, when people first ever saw a vampire film, it's like, holy shit, what's that? Or the first Frankenstein film.
Yeah.
Which by the way was about, we're talking 1915, one of the very early silent films, or even something like Nosferatu in the 20s when that came out. That was the first kind of real. It wasn't probably not the first actual vampire film, but not far off, and it was deeply disturbing because people had never seen that before. Now it's everywhere. Vampires are cliche.
Well, exactly. They make comedies about that kind of shit. It's so different.
I think the first vampire one I saw was I can't remember it now. It popped in my head just then, and that's gone.
I mean, Nosferatu is a great example because, like you said, even back in the 20s, I mean, dang, it just really reminds you, like, people had such creative ideas back then. Because obviously, these creatures and things don't exist. Whether you believe in them or not, that's irregardless. The fact is, they had never been shown on a medium such as, photography, television, film before that. And so tons and tons, like, let's say the masses, they had no idea what a vampire or a demonic creature, they had no idea what any of that was. So to them, they're walking in and it's like, they're just being blown away by this. Oh my God, could this be a real thing? This is terrifying. I absolutely understand how that could be so shocking to people. It's incredible.
And then especially when in that particular film, Murnau, the director, and I'm saying that without looking at IMDb, because I happen to know, right? He did such a fantastic job of casting the vampire, with using Max Ernst as the vampire. He's just such a scary. If you can get a picture of that, pull it up on Google or something like that. If you get a picture of the Nosferatu character, what was his name? Count. I'll have to look that one up. But it wasn't Dracula, so they weren't allowed. Murnau couldn't get the rights to do Dracula from the Bram Stoker estate, because Bram Stoker was dead by then.
That's right.
But his family, I think it was his widow. His widow wouldn't allow Murnau, the German director, to have the rights to make the film. So he had to be very creative and invent He told essentially the same story as Dracula, but he with different names for the characters and stuff like that, and he couldn't call it Dracula, so he called it Nosferatu, the undead. But Max Ernst playing the lead character, even today, it's quite a shocking, disturbing image to look at him in the makeup. He just looks, I think probably the most impressive of all the vampires.
It's definitely one of the best references of what like a terrifying vampire looks like. Even because he pops up in like memes even these days as Nosferatu. And another great example is in Taika Waititi's What We Do in the Shadows. They've always got some kind of like ancient vampire who's like super, super old, even though it's like a comedy, like a spin-off and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always a guy who looks like he's Nosferatu in nature. Like he looks like that.
Like the original Yeah.
Exactly.
Like Max Schreck. Yeah. Exactly.
That's right. They go for that striking value as compared to like the other vampires in the show are like, oh, this one was from like the 1400s, or oh, this one was from the Ottoman Empire, like all these different periods of time, which is interesting. But then it's like, oh, but this is like the oldest vampire that we know of. He doesn't speak like any languages. He just like shrieks, and he's like vampire to the core. Like he doesn't do anything else. He sleeps. He eats people. That's all he does.
Yeah, I gotta say, I do love that series. I wasn't as mad on the film version of What We Do in the Shadows, but it was good, but it wasn't brilliant. But I do like the series.
The series is really good. Yeah,
funny.
Absolutely. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what we do. We just go off on tangents. We haven't even started covering the main topic of today's podcast. I guess that could always be another one if it ends up being that way. But we
well, yeah, when we found out what you've been watching this week.
Well, that's okay. Luckily, mine's short and sweet. I haven't seen any films this week. I've been watching because February has been a busy gaming month for me. As those who know, I do like streaming and YouTube and things like that. And February has been a great release month for games, so I haven't really been able to watch too many things lately. But I have, however, been watching the series Homeland. I watched a little bit of that with Fran in the evening, which was quite nice. We're also currently on Misfits, which is a British television show, and honestly, really, really good. I like the plot. I like the idea behind it. It's like these kids who go to a community service, and some like freak storm happens, and they gain really shit superpowers.
I remember that one.
And it's really, really funny. Honestly, like I really enjoyed it. The first series, brilliant. It's kind of getting a bit strange. Second or third series, they're focusing a lot more on the sex, which makes me feel like it's more like Skins.
Yeah.
But
that's where it lost.
Yeah. Me. I mean, besides that, like the superpowers, the storylines they come up with and everything, and it's still continuing. I think it's very entertaining. No, very, very nice.
On that same note, there's a new movie came out called Misfits.
All right.
With Pierce Brosnan in it.
I don't know if he's in the show.
No, he's not in the show. This is a movie. It's just come out on Disney Plus, I believe.
All right.
And it's a hustle movie. It's like a thief and.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
I mean, probably still good. Pierce Brosnan, fantastic actor.
Oh, it was
really well known for his James Bond.
Yeah, so it's similar
to
that.
And Mamma Mia, funnily enough, he acts in all kinds of different things. Got to give him that. But yeah, definitely doesn't sound like a superhero.
It's definitely not a superhero. That's what I thought when you said Misfits. I was like, I watched that movie.
No. Yeah, I was talking the TV series. It's really funny. Really good on Netflix.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, no, I remember watching the first few episodes of that back when it first came out, or not shortly after it first came out on Channel 4, I think it was.
Yeah, it was.
And I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because obviously, like back when it first came out, that there's certain actors in it that you might not know them, but as watching it in this day and age, I mean, I've watched Umbrella Academy, so I recognize shit, Robert Sheehan, I can't remember his name, but because he's in Umbrella Academy and he's in Misfits. So I was like, oh my god, it's Claude. It's that's really funny. And then the guy who plays Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones is also in it. And I'm like, it's so funny to be able to go back to a show and be like, oh my god, so this was like more of their earlier work.
Yeah.
To see what they turned into is
their
so
growth
incredible.
as an actor or an actress.
Yeah, so cool.
Brilliant.
But that's what I watched this week.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's covered a wide range of topics, hasn't it? We've had 1950s kind of black and white classics about mental cases, and we've had The Exorcist and the horror of the 1970s, and then we've had Misfits from the noughties.
This is what we do. We can bring it to
90s.
We can bring it to any topic we want. It's very easy for us to tie it in. It's our superpower, Dad.
Yeah. I'm saying that I only heard superpower, Dad. It's breaking up a little bit, this connection, unfortunately.
That's all right. Hopefully I'll edit it well enough that the listeners will have no idea.
Pretend it didn't.
They will though. They'll probably know. I'm not that good. Just to say, if anybody does want to help with editing,
get onto the.
I'm not hiring. I don't have money, but we could talk.
But if you want, if people have got an editing suite that they can use,
I'd love another editing suite.
Do you want to talk about the top 10 then? All-time top 10.
I suppose we should, shouldn't we? It's kind of it was the main reason we were doing tonight's podcast. We can throw into that. So last week you issued us the task of picking our top 10 films, which was incredibly difficult for me. It took a little bit of work. Luckily, I recently found out that Netflix has a fantastic thing where it does keep track of every single thing you watch. And while some people might find that terrible,
no, I find that good.
I personally am like, well, that's great. Ever since I first started paying for Netflix, it's recorded I say recorded, it's logged every single time I've watched something, which has been really, really handy. Yeah. So I went through it. It's a massive list for me. But even based on that, and then based on other films that I own, or going through other platform stuff, I was able to kind of realize, okay, these are ones I remember really well. I don't remember these ones. It, really helped me actually form a list. And although I do have a top 10, I also ended up with a couple of notable mentions, which if we have time, we'll get to. But should we all maybe start with just one of our top 10, kind of go around in like a circle and kind of go from there?
Yeah, make it like Christmas morning. We're opening our presents one at a time.
Yeah. Well, exactly. One at a time.
From 10 to 1.
Because otherwise, you're going through one person's full list, and that might be a bit much,
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your? Well, Anthony, let's Anthony start. Anthony, what would you say, or if you want to do by category, what would you say is your number 10?
Stephen King's It.
Ooh.
I was in primary. Okay. I was in primary school when I watched that, and that stuck with me.
We're talking the original one.
The TV version. Yeah, the TV movie version.
The one with what's his name?
John Boy.
John Boy. That's him. Yeah. I was in primary school when I watched that, so that stuck with me. 30 odd years.
Got it clear.
I bet it did. I'm surprised you were allowed to watch it at that age.
I wasn't. It wasn't. I was allowed to. It was hide behind the sofa, sort of looking over, but
still got to see it.
Yeah, I still got to see it. And then growing up, I was like going back. I read the book. That was the biggest book or thickest book I ever read in my entire life. Was that Stephen King's book?
Wow.
But apart from that, that gave me the love of clowns.
It gave the love of clowns.
Yeah.
Whereas that would disturb a lot of people and put them the other way.
It didn't go that way. It made me more interested.
No matter how you define your love of clowns, it's no. But
that's an interesting byproduct of that film.
I'm very happy for you in the clown.
It was that and Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
It's a
juggle between those two.
Okay, that's fair. I'm
Wow.
the same in some of mine where I'm like, oh, okay, it's one or the other, but they're kind of equal.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
You are. Well, what's your number 10 then?
So I'll have to kind of pick one at random. I'm so sorry. Although I have a top 10, I didn't put them in like a list order because it's still very difficult for me to pick a number one. So I'm gonna pick.
Listen, it's different strokes for different folks.
Yes, that's right.
Let's have it.
So I'll just pick. Ooh, I'll tell you
So
what.
what is it?
I'll pick 10 Cloverfield Lane with John Goodman.
10 Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Now, for those
10
who
Cloverfield
don't
Lane.
know, but probably recognize the name Cloverfield, yes, it is the sequel to Cloverfield, shot incredibly
In theory.
differently, which was really good. And I mean, it starred John Goodman, who got to play this incredibly lovable yet terrifying kind of a bunker doomsday kind of a fellow. And I mean,
It's brilliant though.
it was brilliant because, in my opinion, I really liked the idea of Cloverfield because it was one of the first shaky cam. Like, oh my god, there's terrifying
Handheld.
things going on. You kind of know what's going on, but you don't really know what's going on. And so for me, I was like, oh, okay, so this is a sequel. It's not shaky cam. You kind of hopefully get a little bit more story and you get a better understanding of what's going on. I was like, okay, I'm into that. And as it progresses, you find out like he basically kidnaps people, brings them into his bunker while this like horrible, creature event is going on out in the real world, which you still never really learn a lot about, which is just terrible planning on their part. But, he kidnaps people, brings them to his bunker, and he basically rehabilitates them to be like, hey, look, I'm your savior, you should love me, we're all going to be a family down here. And it's just this amazing atmosphere of just like, he rules the roost despite the fact he's saying everybody's equal and all this stuff. And it's, you're confined in this man's bunker. It's not like you really have freedom. You are trapped, and he's trying to portray the image of like, I'm the father, you are my lovers and my children and stuff like that. And he just gets to do whatever he wants. And it's just like, it almost feels like a culty kind of vibe, but it's like a film. It was absolutely, just to see John Goodman play such a creepy character was amazing.
With different dimensions to his character, different facets. Both the kind of the nice, seemingly nice kind of caring and kind, and where you don't know, and then the next minute, completely manipulating and evil and twisted.
And then also angry and violent. Like he just does so many different. He portrays so many different characters in that film, and it was incredibly well done.
He's a top actor.
He is. You got to love John Goodman. He is he's a great actor. He comes up again in my my list later
Right back
on.
to
But
I
we'll
liked
get to
him
that.
right back from the. Right from the days when he was playing Roseanne's.
I knew you were going to say that. I was going to say that too.
Roseanne's husband. Oh, that's a good shout.
I was
Well, right
gonna
from
say
right
that
from then, I
too.
mean, he was one of the. Was he not from that point on? Could you not immediately? Most of the cast in that brilliant. But,
Yeah.
he definitely, he particularly was. He was likable and just like he really liked him.
Straight away, yeah.
Absolutely.
You
So
expect
from
him-
that, you've got the
And
big...
he developed a. Where you get the friendly bit that you expect him to be like that all the time.
Absolutely.
Because that show became very much for those of us that were fans and watched it a lot, it's like a family thing. It's almost like you knew the characters. It's like their friends and neighbours, and he in particular plays such a nice, warm, lovable guy. And so and then when he starts to go out and do a little bit more movie work, he played a lot more darker characters. He played comedy characters, but he also played a lot more darker characters like this one. And if you want to see another example of him playing an unexpectedly darker character who starts out being quite genial and friendly and approachable, but turns out to be very dark. If you watch him in the film Oh Brother Where Art Thou, it's a small part that he plays in just one scene, but again, a very menacing, unexpectedly menacing kind of role again.
He has a fantastic range, and you just wouldn't know it.
No, yeah.
You wouldn't
and like
know it.
The Men.
The Monuments Man.
Yeah, he was quite good in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
you've got
yeah,
the
yeah.
Big Lebowski.
Oh, yep. That's in my
That's
in
what-
my
that's
list. The Big
what-
Lebowski.
Yeah, that's in
it's
like
superb in
my
that.
It's in my list.
sort of stoner
It's in my top 10.
movies, I would say.
It's. I mean, it's
Yeah.
that's in my top 10 for good reason. Not just because
Well-
of John Goodman, but because it has such a great cast.
It's just a brilliant.
Who
it's
it
a brilliant film.
It is a
yeah.
brilliant film.
And then obviously King Ralph.
Yeah, and
Ralph. That was quite a good
Yeah.
one.
And then you've also got him playing far safer things, such as in the Flintstones, where he plays Fred
Monsters, Inc.
Flintstone or Monsters Inc. Exactly.
You
It's
know.
just like he's great. He's great. You got to
The
love
Blues
John Goodman,
Brothers.
Yeah, the most lovable character.
who can also be the most menacing creature. He's great.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Let's.
So this is something. This is something to disturb you then, because Big Lebowski is in my list,
Yeah.
but and I absolutely love that film, but guess what position it's in?
Is it quite?
Even though I absolutely love it, it's 304, number 304 of my all-time favorite
Yeah, but
movies.
you
And
you
I
also
thought-
have a far bigger range of films than some of us do, so I think that's understandable. But even so, I think that's still within like your top 500. That doesn't sound bad.
No. When you think of how many movies
when you
there
see some
are,
of the films it's with,
Yeah, I think
they're out
that's,
there.
that's
Yeah,
reasonable.
exactly. And when you see some of the films that are in front of it, you'll kind of get it. And Monsters Inc., by the way, is number 52 in my all-time top films. And I actually thought I liked Big Lebowski better.
Yeah, it's a great film.
I've
That's
seen,
true.
the animation category,
It
voice
is, it
you know
is
what I mean?
very
Like,
well done. That's true.
it's
Or
brilliant.
another good John Goodman film is the Red State, where he basically plays a cop trying to take down a cult yet again.
Yeah.
Oh, I've not seen that film.
That one's really good. I definitely recommend the Red State. It's not in my top 10, but it is in my notable mentions. The Red State. It is really really good.
Okay, I'm going to make a note of that. And I haven't seen King Ralph either. I've heard of it. I've seen bits of it, but I've never seen it all the way through.
Yeah, I don't think
So
I've
I'll
seen
make a
that
note of
one.
that as well.
No.
No, I see that. I'm happy to see a John Goodman film.
There's so many I can list off.
Oh
right
god,
now.
well
Just-
he's done so much in his career. Like this whole episode is just going to become a John Goodman appreciation episode. But I'm quite happy.
Well,
with
what
that.
about since we're doing that, the John Goodman appreciation, wasn't he in a film which I was expecting to like a lot more than I actually did, which was the black and white one, where it was all, there was no dialogue in it all the way through, and it was almost like a homage to the early to 1920s films. I'm trying to think what it's called. I think it's called something like, I've got it written down here somewhere. I'll tell you in a minute when I find it. But he played a part in that. He played the main part in that, I think.
All right. That's
One
not
of the main
the.
part. No, he didn't. Not the main part. But one of the main parts. I'm trying to find out. I'm sure I've got it in this list here.
For some reason, I'm thinking Laurel and Hardy, but it's definitely not.
No,
that.
no. He
I know
No,
that
it's
wasn't
not
him, but for some reason, like
Yeah.
when I thought black and
I think it's no. I think you're on the. I think it's called the silent movie. I think that's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
I think, or just silent movie. And that, which is what it is, a completely silent movie. So, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I'll double check that. But while I'm double checking that, let me just throw out to you my number 10.
Yeah.
Which and as I always when I look at my list, I'm always kind of thinking, oh wow, wait a minute, there's number 11. I'm sure that should be higher than it is. But when you hear what number 10 is, I think it's got to be there in most people's top list. I think it's actually 3 films because it was a trilogy. And it's going to be very cliche. You're going to be not massively surprised to hear it, but it's the Star Wars saga. At least the first.
Don't get me
3
started on the
Star
Star
you,
Wars.
you're talking about episode 4, 5, and 6 then. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the
I am
original
talking
ones
4,
were the
5,
best.
6.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they
Without-
really.
I'm talking
Oh,
New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
they
Yeah.
really brought the idea of,
Space adventure.
yeah, exactly, space adventure, sci-fi, comics. They really showed like, hey, look, this, stuff that people read in comic books, and it can be really fun, and everybody can enjoy it. And it did such an amazing job, and the storyline, everything about it.
But
You've
with
got to
tho-
appreciate Star Wars.
With those 3, they were made with.
Well, they were the
Love, passion,
foundations.
yeah,
Exactly.
they-
They were the foundations for so many things to come.
Look how far it's gone now.
And look at what it did to some
Yeah.
people's careers. I
Yeah.
mean, Mark Hamill, like
Dude.
he did stuff before Star Wars, and he did stuff after
His
Star Wars and during
voiceover
Star Wars.
work with the
Well,
Joker.
exactly, but
it just goes on.
but I mean, every single person who knows anything about Star Wars knows Mark Hamill, and they love him because of what he brought to the series, and it really helped elevate his career into such amazing heights. And you got to appreciate it. Mark Hamill's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's true for everybody that was involved in it, really. Carrie Fisher,
Yeah, she was brilliant.
These people are legends.
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
legends. They're legends.
Harrison
now.
I loved
and it's
her
because of
part in the Blues Brothers, the original one.
Okay.
She was the woman that was always after.
Yeah, she was
Dan
the
Aykroyd.
crazy woman who was after John Belushi.
okay.
Yeah.
So she-
Okay.
There's one scene that comes to my
Yeah.
mind at the minute is when they're down in the tunnel. She comes out with a big
Yeah.
ass machine gun.
It's right at the end. Yeah, right at the end. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, her brilliant.
Well, she also played a character in a small role like that. Not a mad lady, but again, quite a small, interesting cameo role in Austin Powers.
Yes, she did.
International Man of Mystery, the very first one, if you remember. Yeah, she played that like she had that little group of what was it? This support group for people that were suffering from was it anxiety issues or was it a drink? I can't remember which.
No,
I
it
think
was that
interesting.
scene with Dr. Evil. They're in that
Yeah.
little group and they're talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a support group.
Dealing with the issues. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That was
yeah,
quite
yeah,
funny.
Yeah. It's kind of like I don't remember what the support group was for, but yeah, no, I remember the
It,
scene.
it was like father and son thing, wasn't it? It was like
Yeah, for him it was
that's
issues.
it.
yeah.
Issues
Don't get me
with
started.
the.
You know what I'm like with movies,
Oh
man.
my god,
I've
yeah.
got
Dr.
He was having
Evil and
issues
his
with the guy
son.
the guy that invented Robot Chicken. He was having issues with.
That's right, Seth Green.
Seth
yeah.
Green. He's another good
Oh
dude
my God.
too. I could go on hours for him.
Honestly, very very funny role. Very funny. Dr. Evil and Scott. Such a
Yeah.
funny little duo.
much like Peter Griffin and his son.
Yeah.
Which there I go, name dropping on Seth Green again. I'm Seth Green dropping.
Seth Green, exactly. So Seth
That's
Green was
right.
involved in the Family
Yeah.
Guy.
Oh, it's funny because even in Family Guy they tease the whole about Robot Chicken and
Yeah.
you're not a very good son, and you can feel that connection almost like to Austin Powers, and you're like, no matter what role you play, Seth Green, if you're somebody's son, you're gonna be shit. Oh man.
So I'm just looking at there's a if you've not seen it, this is on, I think it's on Netflix. Pretty sure it's still on Netflix at the moment. There's a documentary about the making of Star Wars, or some of the production crew that are involved in it. They're all, because it was made in England, in British studios. I think
Yeah, it was made in
Shepperton
London.
Studios.
Yeah.
That's
It was
right.
split
On Elstree
between-
Studios. Elstree.
Yeah, it was split between UK production as well as America.
That's right.
But yeah,
And there's a
like the
documentary.
model makers that were in that, the scratch builds. That's where I started my animation,
Yeah.
was from watching those movies. That was my love.
Really?
I was like, wow, I want to
Really?
learn how to do all of this and stop motion, and that was what brought me to finding how to do all of that, was watching those movies.
Wow. Well, this film, there's a documentary, as I said, on Netflix. It's called Elstree 1976, and it's about the people. There's a British production crew, people that were involved in the crew, different parts of the the special effects, and as
Yeah.
you said, the model making, and the people that actually were British people. Even the guy that played,
Darth Vader.
the guy, yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about, with the Green Cross Gold man,
Yeah.
who was gutted because
No,
they
he
didn't
did the voice.
didn't want to use
Yeah.
his voice. They didn't like it. They didn't like his accent.
No, they didn't like the Cornish.
and so
it
they-
wasn't Cornish, it was Devon accent.
It was
So,
it was West Country.
They gave him all
But
these
it-
lines to say, so when he's speaking it, he's sounding like us now. But
Right.
then they cut that,
Yeah,
dubbed
it just didn't-
And dubbed it
It
with
just
James
didn't
Earl
sound
Jones,
scary
yeah.
enough
Yeah.
with James Earl Jones. Yeah, because he's
Yeah,
got
you're
that
gonna be
booming
terrified
voice.
about
hasn't
the man who's threatening you with the cream tea. It's quite
Yeah.
true.
he? Yeah, it's just that kind of that Western accent. It's just not scary enough. It's
That's
just a bit
exactly what he
endearing.
said. He's like,
So
you're not
You
terrifying
sound like a
enough.
friendly
Yeah.
farmer. It's
We need to up your voice. So they went and searched for
yeah,
voice acting.
yeah, just put a bit more menace
Oh, they
in
definitely
your,
picked
in
the
your
right
voice
guy.
if you would.
I mean,
Work on that.
James
Yeah.
Earl Jones, famous also for Mufasa. Fantastic
Yeah.
voice. Fantastic voice.
I was going to say Shredder,
Yeah,
but that's
fantastic
different.
voice.
That was,
Shredder. Yeah, no,
He was
that,
out of
I can see where you're
Fresh
going.
Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
Uncle Phil.
Yeah, that's right.
That's who did Shredder.
That's funny to think.
And he also played a part in what used to be. It's not even in my top 10 now, but it used to be my all-time favourite film, and that was Field of Dreams. He played a part in that as well.
Yeah, that's a, good
A
movie.
great part. He played the part of an author, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's again fantastic movie, Field of Dreams. But if you build it, they will come. So what about number 9? On to Anthony. What's your number 9?
Well, one that jumped into my head just now was Spaceballs, which follows a parody of Star Wars.
No, that's a good shout. Spaceballs, great film.
There's so many
Mel
good
Gibson
actors in there too, let alone the special effects with the extra.
Rick Moranis, was Rick Moranis
their
Darth
Helmet?
He was Darth Helmet,
which was such a great casting choice. You've got this incredibly scrawny, scrawny, nerdy, weak man playing the most threatening person in the galaxy. Hilarious.
And that's the irony.
Yeah, no, that's a great parody film. I mean, whether you like Star Wars or not, Spaceballs. If you want a comedy. It is absolutely over the top and ridiculous, and all it does is just take the piss out of Star Wars.
I wouldn't say it takes the piss. It celebrates the fact that they were big fans of that.
Yeah, but they certainly certainly just went over the top. It was good.
That's the whole point.
I loved it. It was so funny. It was so funny. It was so funny.
Well, in a similar way to the Family Guy crew did and the Robot Chicken crew did.
Yeah,
exactly. It was, I enjoyed that your movie franchise. I'd like to make something like it.
That's quite right. In our own taste. Yeah. No, it was great. It was absolutely great.
Well, Mel Brooks did that quite a bit with, he was known for that. He did that. I mean, he's made some great films anyway, which stand on their own and not specifically spoofed, but he has spoofed films made by people that he admires. So he spoofed Hitchcock, and I'm not saying this on purpose as a segue into my number 9, but it kind of is. So he spoofed Hitchcock. He spoofed Hitchcock's Vertigo, which deserves a special mention because it's number 11 in my list, unfortunately. But I really love that film. But he spoofed it in High Anxiety, which is his own twist on Vertigo. And he was spoofing all the way through. He's taking the mickey out of Hitchcock films, but he wasn't not in a bad way. It's because he just really loved Hitchcock movies, and he did that, like Young Frankenstein's another one where he was taking aim at the 1930s Universal horror, all those films, but in particular Frankenstein. So and again, it's not so much taking a piss out of it. It's just enjoying. It's showing how much he's enjoyed that filmmaking and putting a funny twist on it. But my number 9, can you guys still hear me? Because it's gone a bit quiet here and the connection gets a bit dodgy.
Yeah, still hear you.
You can hear. Okay. So my number 9, speaking of Hitchcock, is Rebecca, which is 19, I think it's 41 or 31. Early. It's 1930. It's a 1930s film, I think. Let me just double check that. But it's Alfred Hitchcock's twist on a Cornish Rebecca du Maurier. Daphne du Maurier, who's Cornish who lived in Foy. She wrote the story Rebecca, which the film is based on, and that's a classic kind of thriller, if ever there was one. That if anybody's not seen it, and anybody of my age group, and probably the next generation down up to the next generation down from me will all have seen it because it's been shown on TV so many times over the years, over the decades. But if you haven't seen it, then you must see it because it is an absolutely superb film. Ghost Story, if you want.
That one doesn't ring a bell. You would have thought so.
Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell, or it does?
It doesn't. Oh no, I've just found one that's 2020.
It's been remade a couple of times.
Yeah,
but the original is the one.
Yeah, I think I've seen the remake version.
Yeah, there's the original. The original's got Laurence Olivier and Joan Fontaine.
1940.
1940. There we go. That's the one. And Hitchcock directs. So I was going to say a future thing we can do for this podcast, Nathan, is I would recommend is maybe on one occasion we'll do. Let's pick our favourite directors. Let's get a handful and kind of throw them out there and put them in competition with each other and encourage our horde of listeners out there to vote on who should be the top director of all time. Because Hitchcock would be on the list for me. Kubrick would be on the list for me.
I'd definitely reckon,
Yeah, okay. That's we can make that happen. We could do a poll. We can definitely do that.
But they're for me. I mean, really, actually, it's close because I really love Vertigo amongst the Hitchcock. I love all Hitchcock's films, but I really love Vertigo. But it's dropped for some reason when I did this list. And I think I might have changed my mind since then. But when I built this list a while ago, Vertigo was only sitting at number 11, and Rebecca is my highest scoring Hitchcock film at number 9. So basically, what the story is about, and I should mention, is it's about a widower. A guy whose wife has died. He's on holiday in Monte Carlo, and he's pretty gloomy. And he meets this young woman who's only she's a fairly plain woman, and she's acting as a kind of a chaperone to an older lady, a rich lady, but she kind of is more like a maid really. And she falls in love with him, and he falls in love with her. And he says, she can't believe it because he's kind of completely different class, and he offers to take her back to his mansion in Cornwall, this fantastic mansion called Mandalay, and she said she falls over head over heels, and she goes back with him. So it starts off, it's kind of a romance, and then when she gets back, she meets the staff, and in particular this one really spooky housekeeper, the one in charge. She's called Danvers. I've got somebody helping me out here. That's Tracy. She's got the detail all set because I'm losing it because my brain's going. It's turning to mush. So Danvers is a particularly, just creepy, not nasty so much as creepy kind of a housekeeper, and she really clearly does not like this new young lady. She likes the woman that the guy was married to before, who was called Rebecca, and who was this superstar, and everybody loved her, and she's wonderful. And this new young wife is starting to realise she's quite plain, and she's starting to think she's struggling to kind of live in the shadow of this woman, and she's getting more and more kind of intimidated by this whole all the memories of this, and she's worried that the guy that she's married doesn't really love her and all this kind of stuff. So he sounds like it's a bit of a mushy romantic, but it's not really. He's really kind of a thriller. So the tension builds and builds, and at the end you find out a little bit more. There was more to this original woman than initially she thought, and it's just got a nice. I won't spoil it. It's got a nice kind of twisted ending to it. But yeah, it's got a nice, very atmospheric. It's got a very kind of tense feeling to it, and it's slowly building into something which is really kind of menacing and worrying. And Rebecca, absolutely worth watching, and it's one of several Daphne du Maurier stories which are really, really worth reading or looking at. Because there's been a few films made, but it's probably the most famous one. So, My Cousin Rachel is another one that Daphne du Maurier wrote. I want to say the French lieutenant, the lieutenant's woman. Is it the French? There's a couple of others as well that are worth a look, but Rebecca is the most famous one.
Yeah,
and this particular version of Rebecca.
Yeah, that's what I was
this
saying.
particular version of Rebecca
they've done a remake,
worth watching.
2020. I think that was the one I caught recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yes.
So I
and that was half decent as well. I watched bits of that, and that was half decent. It wasn't too bad. But this just really is.
Yeah, it's
just
not a
got such
Hitchcock
great
movie,
atmosphere.
not,
No, of course, it just wouldn't be the same.
If you know of his work,
Yeah.
Like
I mean, you can't just recreate
Psycho
something
and
like
stuff
that.
like that.
You know?
That was more like
Yeah, you could try, but it's always going to be more like an homage to their styling, whereas it won't be the exact thing because you just can't recreate exactly what a certain style would have been by somebody else. It's just not possible.
No,
which is a shame, but it's just the truth of the matter, and that's
absolutely.
I think it's good. The fact is, even if somebody gives it a go, in the right kind of way, then it's memorable. It's an homage. It's a tribute. It's beautiful. Then that's fine.
Absolutely right. Jamaica Inn. That's another classic story by Daphne du Maurier, and Hitchcock made a film version of that as well.
Oh, okay.
And that's based in, of course, it's very, very
Jamaica Inn.
Very topical for you guys. Very relevant for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
A place where you might go and do some not quite urban exploration, but certainly. It's supposed to be haunted, the real Jamaican Inn. So a bit of
it's quite funny because even if you go to their website, they have a whole paranormal tab about going on you can there's like a package deal they do where you can basically investigate along with I think their staff and stuff. You get like dinner and breakfast and everything, and you stay overnight in one of the haunted rooms. It's something I have looked into for the Badland Boys. It's quite true.
It's something that we'd be into anyway.
Absolutely, I'd be down to go. mess around with some ghosts and see if we
Definitely
get anything
enjoy
to happen.
We Tracy and me visited Jamaica. We didn't do the overnight thing, but we'd visited the little museum thing, and it was pretty cool, wasn't it? It's a really cool place. Bodmin Jail as well, incidentally.
No, that's another good
Yeah,
one.
Bob and Jail's quite good.
That's one for your list, isn't it?
That was yeah. So yeah, that was quite cool visiting that one.
Yeah.
So what's your number 9, Nathan?
So my number
What are
9.
you going to decide is your number 9?
Yeah. So no. So this one's quite interesting because it was kind of a three-way tie because it was an animated film, an older animated film, not old, but old to me, if you will, like 20 years ago. God, it doesn't sound that old, but I mean that was 2002. That's just insane, isn't it? 20 years ago, 2002.
It's 2 decades ago.
Yeah, but it was a tie between The Road to El Dorado, Treasure Planet, or Atlantis because I really enjoyed the older stylings of the Disney feature. Well, I can't say the older stylings of Disney because old style of Disney. You're talking like the earliest Snow White and everything, which it definitely wasn't that.
Which was done by
this
pen
was
and pencil.
yeah. So I ended up picking Treasure Planet because I think out of those three, it was close between that and Road to El Dorado because I really enjoyed the stylings. El Dorado was funnier, whereas Treasure Planet was more of like it had some funny moments, but it was more of like a rich piratey story, which I think ultimately I had to go with in the end because it was a better, more fun adventure. And I mean to put it simply, it's like I said, it's an animated film, but it's about this young boy Jim Hawkins, I believe his name was, and they're living in essentially a sci-fi future, if you will, and even though it's a sci-fi future, there's still like the idea of space pirates and everything, because some things are just never going to die, and he's working in an inn with his mom and everything, doing the typical like, I'm such a teenage scumbag, I'm gonna go mug people, and I'm gonna help my mum because I love her. It's a typical growing of age story, I suppose, for some, and eventually like some pirates attack, kind of burn the inn down and stuff. Oh no, everything's going wrong, and he ends up getting this opportunity to team up with this other group who have a ship, and they're hunting for a place called Treasure Planet, and it's like, it's the whole idea of like untold riches in a specific location, So it's a typical pirate tale, but told from an animated perspective in a sci-fi atmosphere, and it's got some very good musical numbers. It's not a musical, but it does have good music score. It's got a really fascinating story with good twists and turns. And if you like pirates and you like animated films from 2002, I highly recommend it.
If you like Robert Louis Stevenson and the original Treasure Island, which is clearly based on.
100%. 100% very based on.
Yeah. And I was going to say that an interesting bit of trivia there for you. This is family trivia, and I've got two interesting bits of trivia there. Family trivia is probably meaningless to anybody else but you and me. Maybe to Anthony, I don't know. But that when you were very young, well, actually even younger, even before that, when Adam was probably a toddler, when he was about 5, 6, 7, something like that, I used to read him bedtime stories, and one of the things that I used to read him Treasure Island, so we got very familiar with that story. I used to read him bits of Treasure, kind of serialised it each evening, and I'd read him this bits of the story. So that's when I first became very familiar with it. I'd heard of it, but I'd never really watched it or read the story until I was reading it to Adam, which is one interesting point. But also the two of the films that you mentioned there, but just got slightly nudged out by Treasure Planet. The interesting thing there is, I was with you. I took you to the pictures to watch Road to El Dorado and Atlantis.
Yeah.
Both of those films, we went as a family to watch at the movies, but not Treasure Planet. I don't remember taking you to see that. So that must be something
I think we got that on VHS. We didn't see that one in theaters, but we did have the VHS copy. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a shame because
cool.
It was definitely. I liked Atlantis. I thought that was quite good. I think The Road to El Dorado was definitely. It was a much better story. But I think I still had to go with the pirate one at the end of the day because it was, it's cool. It's a pirate story. Who doesn't like pirates at the end of the day?
No, it's a great story. I mean, the original story that it's based on is fantastic. So and it's got sci-fi as well. I mean, it's got everything on it, really.
Yeah, it really does. Throw it on its head. Whereas like The Road to El Dorado, it's
got it all.
It's typical Mexican conquistador kind of thing. It's you know, it's steeped in a level of, you know, truth. Whereas like Treasure Planet, although it's based on Treasure Island, they took it in, you know, their own direction, which I thought, you know, you got to give credit to. It was very well done.
Yeah, cool, brilliant. That's a worthy choice, I think. And we brought a bit of animation into the mix here, which is good.
Yeah, it's good to have different tastes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Anthony, what's your number 8?
I'm going to go with Jaws.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's a classic.
very,
Stephen
very
King.
good. Yeah,
That's
Stephen
okay.
King, Spielberg.
that's
isn't
a
it?
good call.
Yes, it is a Spielberg. That's a classic, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's that
Well, I like the
Absolutely
whole suspense thing. You don't see the shark
all the time.
all the time. It's that suspense.
We're
with
going to
that
need a bigger
camera.
boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Iconic lines.
That dude in himself, he's a good actor too. He's
Yeah.
been in multiple good films. James Bond for one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was where
Certainly made people very aware of
not want
sharks.
to go into the sea.
Yep, and being more careful on the beach,
Well, I think-
despite the fact they still don't. But you know,
Yeah.
It absolutely deserves to be in any top list. I think he's an absolute
I couldn't
classic.
agree more.
To
That is
this
a
day,
great
it's
choice.
still-
Like I said before, I've got
Still
all
just-
of my movies in the genres that I like. So this is just I'm picking
That's
ones out.
that's a smart choice.
You know?
That's a smart choice. I can definitely respect that. Jaws is a great film. Very well done,
It is.
and especially back then. I mean, it was such an
You
original
think,
story.
yeah, like that's they had
Killer
they
shark.
had built these robot sharks for that film, but they didn't
Yeah.
work. So therefore,
Yeah.
that's why it was suspense shots where you didn't see any shark or anything. You knew it was there, but
Everybody
camera.
knows the
So
theme
basically, that-
music.
in my eyes, that's the first point of view
It's
filming that was put into a horror. So
Yeah. And not your typical kind of horror where, you know, it's a humanoid killer. I mean, this was a it was a killer
didn't,
shark.
yeah, they didn't give that up straight away. You know,
Yeah.
they took their time to bring that evil shark.
It was very good. Very clever choice.
Yeah, and I think it still stands up today. It's still, any time it comes on, you know, we do watch it from time to time.
I
Jaws,
still
don't
watch it now.
we love it. Yeah, and it still works, doesn't it? It still works. It's still got all that. It's got that charm to it, that character to it. The you know, the characters, the people that are involved, and it's still got that tension. You know, it's still got it still has some. It's not going to become cheesy or anything like that. It's very, very realistic and. Yeah, it's a great watch, I think.
Yeah,
Even though
agree,
I put it in,
definitely.
it's in my top 100. I'll tell you that. It's number 75 in my list. But absolutely, I love to watch it. It's always fun to watch that. Thoroughly enjoy it. And when you live on the coast, it's just got that little bit more resonance, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you live in a
makes you
coastal
think.
area,
that's right. So, like getting in the sea.
anything nautical like that, especially with a bit of menace to it, is it just resonates a little bit more when you're in a coastal area. So I've got a classic, another classic. There's quite a lot of old films. It's not all old films, I promise you, in my top 10, but there's quite a lot
To
of
be
old
honest,
films.
there isn't any new movies that are worth talking about.
It depends, isn't it? It depends on
Yeah.
certain things.
Like I said, it's in that
I've got
genre
maybe
again.
one or two in my top 10, but I think you'll both agree
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they're brought up why.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I've got a couple of fairly recent films in my top 10 as well, but I've got quite a lot of older classics, and I have to explain that. And I've mentioned this in an earlier podcast, and Nathan knows this, and for Anthony's benefit as well. It's basically my favourite genre is probably my favourite genre is sci-fi, and my favourite subgenre, or like really specifically, I like 1950s sci-fi, because I think in the 50s some fantastic science fiction stuff came out, which these days is a bit cheesy, but it's stuck again, with people of my generation and even the generation following, because it was on TV so much when we were young, it's kind of drilled in. It's got the same, in the same way you might feel about Star Wars. We get that same feeling about these very early kind of cheesy films. So one of them, and it's not really cheesy at all. It's just a really good film from that era. Is my number 8. In fact, I think all the next couple of films are going to be from that subgenre. And number 8 for me is Forbidden Planet, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Forbidden
even though it's
Planet.
such an ancient film. Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
With Robbie the Robot.
Yeah, that's right. Robbie the Robot.
Yeah.
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 Was it
Here we go with robots.
It's terrible because I want to say they went to Mars, but I don't remember
No,
if
it
it was
wasn't
Mars.
Mars. Was it Mars? Was it the moon?
No, it was a distant planet in a distant galaxy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember it was because it was a black and white film.
No, it's a colour film.
Is it a colour film? Oh, I could have sworn it was a black and white. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I don't remember it much at all.
This is that one with the square robot.
Yeah, the square robot, round head, exactly. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. So big old chunky robot, and
That's right.
basically what happens is they go to this planet because it's a bit like they hear they find out that somebody's they're traveling through deep space and they find out there was a crashed. No, that's what it was. There was a crashed a spaceship crashed there a decade or 2 decades ago, and they go to see if there's any survivors, or they've been hearing some sort of signals that indicates that there's at least a couple of survivors, and so they go to check it out, and it turns out there is one survivor, and his daughter, and his robot that he constructed, and he's living in this place that's really kind of futuristic, and he's designed all kinds of really cool things about it, and but then so they land and they kind of get themselves sorted out, and they say, well, we're gonna have to take you back or rescue you or something. And he says, no, leave me alone. I don't want you to hang around. Just bugger off and leave me alone. And then this invisible monster starts to show up, and all hell breaks loose. And the captain falls in love with the captain. All the guys fancy this daughter, and she's never really seen men before because she's grown up on this planet. And then Robbie the Robot, of course, is a key character because he's just a bit of fun in there as well. But it's actually based loosely on a Shakespeare play. The Tempest, but that's not it's not a massive it's there, but it's not a massive feature of it really. It's just a classic sci-fi.
I can see some
film. One of the big
slight parallels. But
yeah, it's and then you've got Leslie Nielsen, well known for his performing performances in The Naked Gun and other spoofy comedies. He's actually playing. And he's playing a serious role in this one.
He's underrated for me, if you know what I mean. He should be higher than what he's regarded.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that is the first of a couple of films that you're going to see that are in my list. I just love these old films. The kind of my little guilty pleasures. I love to watch them anytime I feel like I watch it. Anytime I can't think of what to watch, I'll happily watch for the 1,000th time a film like this, because it's a nice kind of fantasy, escapist kind of fun. So yeah, that's my number 8.
I guess it's mine.
Nathan?
Yep. Sorry, it's my number 8 now.
Yeah.
So my number 8, it originally was Avengers Endgame, but in spite of recent developments and watchings, including my dad, it's now turned into Spider-Man No Way Home.
That's the new one.
Yeah.
Oh.
I haven't seen that yet, so...
Wow. Okay. Well, because Anthony hasn't seen it, we won't do too much discussion about it, as awful as that is.
But it's okay, because there are people out there in YouTube land that fucked it all.
Hey, look. Okay. Well, look. What do you know about it, so I know what I'm allowed to say?
Oh, I know the 3 are back.
Okay, yeah,
so I know about that.
That was probably one of the biggest things
which
I think for me.
Which I knew they were going to do anyway. Because
we all knew. But I mean, the fact is, like you said, they brought all 3 different film Spider-Men. That at least the most popular from the 2000s and everything. You got Tobey Maguire, you got Andrew Garfield,
which is one of my favourites because he put skateboarding back into
Well,
Spider-Man.
exactly, and for a lot of people, like, well, why are there so many different Spider-Man films? It's like, well, yeah, but look, in the comic book world, there's different forms of Spider-Man from different universes, and that's what it's all accumulating to. It's all part of the multiverse kind of stuff, which is exactly where they're trying to bring it all now. It's such a big ambition.
It's a big world, Marvel.
It is,
It's
and
big.
and quite frankly, like, they could have fucked it up.
No.
They could have really done this so badly, but they brought the right kind of villains. They brought the right kind of intrigue with the
Directors,
story. Exactly.
screenwriters.
The way they did everything, I mean, they paid tribute to what they should have and been like, okay, look, we're not going to change what the old people were. You know, we're just going to brush up on some things. We're going to tie it all together, and we're going to make it all canon. And I'm just like, you guys have taken the biggest undertaking, and you've done such an incredible thing here, and you've got to respect that. It's just a fantastic film.
On that Spider-Man category, before the new ones were made, there would have been more, but they kind of ruined them. Like the last one with
Andrew Garfield.
The Amazing Spider-Man. They had too many villains on in the end credits. They had Rhino, the other two.
Yeah.
Electro and
Vulture.
Vulture.
Yeah, but
Sandman.
I think it's because they were trying to build towards the Sinister Six.
Yeah, that was where.
But then they just kind of failed.
Yeah.
But you kind of get a little bit of that in
But
No Way Home. You get a little bit of that, which is
this
pretty
one
good.
now, I find it's a lot better.
Honestly, I mean, you have to watch it. You have to, and you will completely understand why it's in my top 10 now compared to Avengers Endgame. I love Endgame.
Endgame was brilliant.
It was a great big old finale kind of thing, and I thought that was amazing because it took them years and all these different stories coming together, and I thought that was amazing. But then I saw No Way Home, and I was like, you know what? Endgame doesn't look that impressive compared to this undertaking and how they've done this. And I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. And that's why this deserves my number 8 spot.
There you go. Very deserving, absolutely. Well, big Marvel fan. Interestingly, that in this film, it departs a little bit from the first films in his mentoring, because his mentoring in the first couple of films seems to come from Iron Man, whereas in this film he has a new mentor, much darker, really, in a way.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, and for me, much cooler. I mean, Iron Man's great, and everybody loves Iron Man, of course. He's probably the most popular film Marvel character. But Doctor Strange, I find him.
Yeah.
But I find Doctor Strange really cool. I think they've done it in the comics. I thought I struggled to get into him. I wanted to get into him because I like the idea of the story, but I never could really get into it. But the film version of Doctor Strange,
the film version of Doctor Strange is you gotta love Benedict Cumberbatch.
The animation movies of Doctor Strange.
Yeah. No, I haven't. No, I have not seen the animation.
I got all them all outside.
All right. Okay.
Are they good? Are they?
Are there any parallels? Is there anything we should know about the animation Doctor Strange?
It's complete.
Is it more like the comics, or is it more like?
It's more comic. Infused.
Right.
It's more based on that comic. So
Okay.
the movies do take from the animated.
I would imagine, that they've got to have obviously tie-in and inspiration.
But those ones are brilliant, like Planet Hulk, and the list goes on. But I've got all those outside.
In the rain.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
my Marvel collection's stupid.
just outside in the rain. What he means is out in his place. That's what he means.
Right.
Yeah, I live in a tent.
Lives in a tent. That's a big shed, though. With electricity and a shower. It's a decent shed.
It's better than none.
Another interesting thing is that Jon Favreau, who plays Happy Hogan, he used to do the directing or the writing on a lot of the Marvel stuff, especially the Spider-Man stuff. He's not involved. He didn't get writing credits on this one, but he was involved in writing or directing or both. In fact, he did Endgame. You just mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
Or did he do Endgame? Or no, he might not have done it. He might have just starred in it.
He probably had a part in it. I don't know if he was like the full man behind it.
There's brothers.
The Russo brothers.
Yeah, they're behind some of the Marvel.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did Endgame. Yeah. I'm trying to find which one. I'm sure he was involved in directing some. I thought it was the earlier Spider-Man stuff that he directed.
He might have
part of the reason why he's put himself in
Tom Holland. He might have been
as a character.
Because I mean, he's been in at least the Marvel films for a fair amount of time now. But I think you're right. I think he kind of started out maybe writing in and then luckily they were able to bring him into a part all his own. Being happy, starting out in the Iron Mans. Very funny. What a name for a character, Happy.
Brilliant.
He's great.
Now look where
he plays it well.
He's doing Mandalorian. He's in with the Star Wars.
No, that's the beauty.
That may be where, that may be where I'm getting confused. Yeah, he's writing on the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He has not written or directed
I'm not
any
sure if
Spider-Man.
it's the Mandalorian or the Book of Boba. He's in.
He's
in and out
dabbled.
of both of them.
He's
think.
dabbled.
He's writing.
Yeah.
He's got writing credits on that, so he's
Absolutely.
involved in the writing of the Mandalorian.
He's done marvelous on the Star Wars TV programs.
That's the
Yeah,
beauty of working for Disney.
I think he's. I've always been a fan of Favreau from being fairly young as an actor, and as a writer and a bit of a director as well. So, I've enjoyed a lot of his early stuff, which we'll talk about some other time. But I, especially early stuff. He worked a lot with Vince Vaughn, and there were some very, very funny films that they did together.
Oh my god!
I was going to say Dodgeball. It's not Dodgeball.
I'm talking about Maid and Swingers.
Yeah.
And he did a good few kind of really funny films. The two of them together were a good pair. So he did a bit he worked on the Orville a little bit. He's done a little bit on Young Sheldon in terms of directing.
Yeah.
So he's done quite a bit of TV stuff, but good, kind of good stuff, which is definitely my. Iron Man. So he has directed some Marvel stuff.
Yeah,
he directed
I would have thought so.
Iron Man and Iron Man 2. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So where are we now? We're number 7 next, and I think it's Anthony. I think it's your 7.
I think it's called Critters. It's the ones where they come out the toilet, the little hairy fur ball creatures.
That
Critters,
sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another one that tormented me as a young age. Never wanted to sit on the toilet because thinking I'd,
you were scared to go to the toilet.
You get invaded.
Yeah, but on another note, for a scary sort of science fiction alien thing, I thought it's, I still watch them to this day.
Oh no, yeah, Critters is quite goofy, quite fun. Like they say, it's got scary elements, which I think is what they were ultimately trying to go for.
What I'm getting at, I saw that at a young age, like I did with Stephen King's It. These ones were not really traumatized, but they're stuck in the back of my mind for sure.
Yeah. They always hold a place
they always
inside
stand
you
out,
as terrifying. Yeah.
Out.
No, I get you.
They made an impression.
Yeah, it's the same with the Alien franchise.
Yeah, that's in my notable mentions. Gotta love
that has to be,
franchise.
and it would be mine as well. It would be my notable mentions for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic series of films, in particular the first one.
The first one,
all of them
for me, that broke out, and I quite like the second one with, Nath likes the line.
Yeah.
They're all coming out of the goddamn walls.
That's right.
So yeah, that's that actor there. Honestly, if he was still here today, brilliant. Like he was in the Predator movies, or Predator 2 anyway.
Good old action star.
Bill Pax.
Bill Paxton?
That's him, yeah, him.
Yeah, Bill Paxton, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that guy is one of my favourite actors. But yeah, that was my number 7, I believe. That was 7.
I'm trying to find where Alien is in my top 1,000.
It's got to be in there. At least one of them.
It's definitely they're all there. It's actually number 101, but it deserves to be a lot higher because I really love that film.
Yeah, it's definitely higher in
Superb
mine.
film. And did we talk about? Yeah, we were talking about this, Nathan, in the first podcast, because the fact that they use different directors for Ridley Scott did the first, but they used different directors, all of whom were well known and well established and highly credited, but for all different and unique styles. So between Aliens was a different director again, but it was and then of course one of them was what's his face, the French director of Bad Bug. I think he did Alien 4, didn't he? We decided
that's
that
right.
was the most
Alien
weird.
Resurrections.
That was the most weird one, but
yeah,
it was in keeping with his style.
It definitely was, and yet it still was alien enough to feel like an alien film. But you could tell it had such a strange. I don't know. The plot of that, there's so many liberties you could tell that it was a very different film.
I can't remember the artist that came up
Yeah.
with the concept art of Alien.
What,
Yes.
Xenomorph?
Yes.
I can't remember his name, but he's pretty good in.
He's a German, or he's Austrian. I think he's a German or Austrian artist.
He's
Today.
he's done a lot of
I'll get his name for you.
art stuff for other films too, but
I wouldn't be surprised.
the Alien one was his biggest, I believe.
I mean, it's definitely one of the most iconic for, I mean, especially a sci-fi horror franchise.
Yeah,
Like
Geiger.
doesn't know
Geiger
that?
is called. Geiger.
Geiger.
that's him.
okay.
Yeah, that's the dude.
Not
Geiger,
responsible
yeah.
for the Geiger counter. I
No,
hope.
And talking about YouTube documentaries, I think there's even just regular documentaries. I think there's a couple of documentaries out there, interesting ones out about him,
Yes.
about his work, because
Yeah, I
it was
think-
very influential and it was very unique, wasn't it? It had a very
Yeah.
unique kind of vision.
Yeah, he did
Across the
other.
board.
He helped in other movies too, not just Aliens, but Aliens was the one that I heard more about him in that genre and that movies than I did other ones. But
Yeah,
there was one I watched the other day. He designed the ship. It was for one of the Star Wars. It's one of the new prequel ones.
right.
Yeah, it's like one of those, and his design was too. It was on par with what the director wanted, so he had to get somebody else to take bits of his artwork, mix it with this other guy's artwork and another guy, and they got a ship. I can't remember what.
Right, I see.
Can't remember what that was, but that was another YouTube.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if that was on Rogue, something like Rogue One, which that was a little bit
Possibly.
out from the
It might have been that, yeah.
the mainstream.
But it was one of the prequels movies,
Yeah.
at least.
Cool. All right. Now that's yeah, I like that. That's cool. So that was Critters. And Nathan, so what's your number 7?
My number 7, to bring it back to John Goodman Appreciation Podcast episode,
Yeah.
is The Big
Yeah.
Lebowski.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, love it.
I mean, you've got
about
Jeff
it.
Bridges playing
Fantastic film.
Jeffrey Lebowski, and for those who don't really know the film, to give you a quick little rundown, so it's about this. Jeff Bridges basically plays this pot smoking. He drinks White Russians. He's like a long hair hippie kind of dude, and he gets mistaken for a guy with the exact same name who's a multi-millionaire. I think he was like a veteran, if I remember right, who's basically got it all and everything, and he gets tied into some of his like dirty work basically. I think there's like he basically he's with his bowling buddies, John Goodman, which is why he's brought up, Steve Buscemi. They're all best mates and everything, and they all get roped into this ridiculous adventure, to put it simply, and it's incredibly goofy and funny, and it's quite dark in some parts. It's got a bit of action. It's just a great story. It's really funny.
Very funny. Quite a very good example of the Coen Brothers. Probably my favourite Coen Brothers film, to be fair. And there's one of my favourite pieces of music is every time the dude is in the bowling alley and feeling a bit gloomy and pondering on how shit his life is, and his buddies have left him,
Yeah.
and he's sat at the bar, and the cowboy shows up, played by Sam Elliott. Yeah.
Sam Elliott. Yeah.
And whenever
the
he shows,
stranger.
whenever he shows up, he's got his intro music, and that I love that piece of music, and I used it one time as my ringtone. I still love it anyway, and the music's called "Tumbling Tumbleweeds." Just out of interest for anybody else that loves it, and it's by the never remember the name of the band, the country band that do it. But Roy Rogers, also a film actor, he did a version of it as well. He's a film actor from the 1940s, played cowboys. Played a singing cowboy, in fact. She did a version of it. That's just, again, a little bit of trivia. I think one of my favourite parts, I mean, that film is funny all the way through. It's got lots of funny bits in it. But one of my favourite bits is when it'll be spoiling. I won't say who's died, but they're ditching the ashes of their friend. They're getting taking him to the. They're going to throw his ashes off the cliff at the over the sea, and the wind blows it all back in.
Yeah, no, yeah, that part was funny. That was a good scene.
Classic.
It's just one of many funny parts. It's just a funny film, isn't it?
Yeah, that's quite right.
Sons of the Pioneers, that's the name of the band that sang Tumbling Tumbleweeds. You can find that on YouTube. And it always reminds me of the film, and I just love those scenes where the cowboy, and he's a narrator, right? He's cast as a narrator who comes in and he tries to kind of, sympathise with him and give him a bit of counselling.
It doesn't really work. That's quite right. It's very funny. Oh man.
Yeah, it's another one of those films I could watch any time.
Definitely.
And of course, Jeff Bridges, great actor anyway, been in a lot of classic films, but he's definitely that character. I mean, he was that character. That he's almost like that character was written for him, and that character is he's always remembered as when people see him in celebrity events and things like that. They always, or fan situations, the dude is always a character which kind of sticks with him, that he's very proud of, and people like to remind him and like him to act like.
I'm not surprised. It was a great character for him to play.
It was. So that was number 7.
Yep, that's my number 7.
So Anthony, what's your number 6?
It's quite top of my.
Put you on the spot there, didn't I?
Yeah. No, you did. I was waiting for Nath.
We were going through mine, mate.
One I've recently watched, which is hilarious. Ryan Reynolds, obviously.
Yeah.
My Bodyguard. My wife's
The Hitman's
My Bodyguard.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
Hitman's Bodyguard. I have not seen that yet. That looks interesting. I'm gonna
highly recommend it. And the
funny.
second.
Oh yeah.
Like
Hitman
normally
Bodyguard's
a second,
wife. Yep.
normally second one you're like, no, I won't. But it's even funnier.
Yeah, because it's him and Samuel L. Jackson. It's like two very different dynamics.
Samuel L. Jackson, he's much in anything anyway.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, it's one of the recent ones that I've watched that have come out recently.
Because you got Ryan Reynolds' humour, he can also still be kind of an actiony kind of star.
Yeah.
Paired with Samuel L. Jackson, who takes no bullshit from anybody kind of character. I mean, it is.
I've had enough of these snakes in this goddamn plane. These goddamn snakes in this goddamn plane.
That's right.
On the same note of Samuel L. Jackson, it's Pulp Fiction after that. And,
you know what I mean? That's another.
It just goes and goes.
The good old Quentin Tarantino films.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson has been up. He was up in this part of the country only a couple of 2-3 weeks back. He's filming a Marvel program back in Halifax, not far from where we are.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's
Halifax. He was in Peace.
Probably
Peace
doing
Hall.
a Nick Fury kind of thing.
No, it's the Invasion line. It's a TV program that's coming out
it's a TV series.
Yeah. I can't remember what it is. Secret
Obviously,
Invasion,
he's playing
something like that. It's something to do
Nick,
with the
Nick
clone,
Fury.
not the clone.
Not the Inhumans then.
No, the
Secret Invasion. It sounds familiar. Yeah.
what
It's
they
definitely
call,
Marvel.
the chameleon ones.
Oh, okay. Kind of like shapeshifters and stuff.
Yeah, the
Like body snatchers.
no, they're the green guys with the ears. I can't remember what they're called.
Green guys with ears. Aliens.
No,
Goblins. Trolls.
Skrulls.
Oh, the Skrulls.
Yeah, it's part of that
Oh.
thing. Yeah, it's part of that.
I mean, that's well, that might be what the Skrulls look like in the comics and stuff. But
Yeah, green,
they
with
don't really look like that
ears.
in the film now.
Yeah.
They keep changing how they look in films, which is a bit of a.
So yeah.
They got to stick with one.
Yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend that Bodyguard one with.
Yeah,
Ryan
Hitman's
Reynolds.
Bodyguard, very funny, very good. It's plenty of good action. It works out really well
And
for
on
Ryan
that,
Reynolds.
what's the other one? That funny guy for.
Nice guy.
Oh, free.
Yeah.
Oh,
Free guy.
Free guy.
Free Guy.
Yeah,
Free
hell,
Guy.
that one
Yeah, that was good.
brilliant.
That's really good.
Yeah, I watched that. In over Christmas because my brother recommended it, and yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think I've watched that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, no,
so.
that was so it's very funny. But I think that's the thing with Ryan Reynolds. You have to let him do what he does. Let him take on the character, and you're gonna have a great result.
Look at what he did for Deadpool, man.
Oh, I know that's in my list.
Oh, superb.
It's in my list. It's coming up. We're gonna talk about Deadpool. Don't worry.
I've got to see if it's in. I don't think it's in my list, but it deserves to be.
Yeah.
Because I think it's such a long time ago that I actually did a thorough kind of building of this list. It's a little bit out of date, and it's not got Deadpool in it. That's annoying.
That's fair.
Put that
I mean,
down,
you know,
that's a gun there.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
that's a gun there.
when we're talking now, different movies will just pop up, and
exactly.
you're like,
And then
lad,
you're like,
that-
oh, I forgot about that one. It's
how
just,
did I? Yeah, how did I not? Yeah.
It's easy to forget films. There's way too many to even count.
I've watched so much over the years. It's hard to pick
Yeah. Well,
a top 10.
if I've
at
got a
least.
top 1,000,
I think
over
you've got a
that.
top 1,000, all right.
I've got a top 1,000. If I've got a top 1,000, then that just shows how many films are out there.
I think that's
That
just
you
my
forget
DVD
about, you know.
collection outside. just
I'm
about.
not surprised. I don't think I could pick 1,000. That's way too many for me to pick. I'm sure I've seen more, but that's still too many.
That's
too
not
many to pick.
covering the 2 terabyte 2 hard drives I've got out full of movies and TV programs.
Oh no, you little skateboarding pirate.
Yeah.
You.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. You're just ripping. You're just ripping. There's nothing illegal about that. It's fine. Got to copy the stuff. I get it. What are we on? Are we on number?
Well, so we're on number 7. We're on number 7. I'm doing my number 7, and that is my number 7 is still in the theme, as I said, of the 1950s sci-fi. The next one slightly better, but very close actually, very close to Forbidden Planet, and it's called The Day the Earth Stood Still.
That's a good one.
Oh.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
The original black and white one.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'll have seen it on. It's been on that TV that many times. It's been really over and over, and that's growing up from being young. You know, it must have been on at least once a year, but I always love to watch it. I think it's a great little story by a great little director by the name of Robert Wise, who's not that well known these days, but he was responsible for this film. He was responsible for a film called The Haunting, which came out at a similar sort of time, which is one of the best ghost films out there. And he's responsible for a film that's recently been remade, West Side Story. So he's done musicals, you know, supernatural horrors and sci-fi, and he's touched different genres, and he's made, you know, some amazing films in each of the genres he's been involved with. But so he might deserve warrant a place on the list for possible great directors. But this film, I just think is just great. It's just got all the atmosphere. It was well produced. I mean, I used to think of these sci-fi films that I love from the 50s as being like B movies, but they really weren't. The ones that I've selected that are in my list, they actually had a lot of money invested in them. They were big kind of blockbusters in a way. Back in the 50s, sci-fi was starting to get to be kind of a thing, and there was a lot of cheesy films out there. But this was around this time, the late 50s. Big production companies were deciding, you know what, we're going to invest, we're going to do some really decent, high quality ones, and this certainly for the time was a pretty high quality piece. Good production, good special effects, good robot, and Nathan knows anytime there's a robot involved, if it's a good robot, then it's got my interest because I love my robots. I love me some robots.
Yeah, definitely not the only one.
Well, but yeah. So you guys have you seen that then? You've seen The Day the Earth Stood Still?
I think I have the original black and white.
I've probably seen it because of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that that's a bad thing. Don't take it the wrong way.
Because I just happened to watch it and you just happened to be there.
It could be. It could be
Well,
one. Well,
yeah.
I feel like there's also been times where you just decided to show me a film because you appreciate it and you wanted to see if I would appreciate it too. And for me, it was a bonding thing with my dad. And you know, it's true. We do have a lot of similar tastes. So,
To be honest, that's how you get interested in films by other people's, other recommendations. Like without my granddad,
Yes.
I probably wouldn't have had the interest I do in photography, anything like that.
Absolutely.
So he was the one
Yeah,
that pushed me in
yeah.
those sort of areas.
Yeah.
Same with animation. He was always a big help when it came to
Well,
learning
that's
animation.
good, isn't it? You're right. It's bonding with people, and especially like family members or people that you're close to, and sharing interests and suggesting things and recommending things. It's a good way.
Yeah,
That's how
my
we
granddad
kind of
was
get these
always good
things.
with that sort of movie genre. So, yeah, he was always
Yeah.
poking me in the right place.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool. So Nathan, you're
Mm.
number 7.
We went through my number 7. That was The Big Lebowski.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Was that your number 7?
Yeah.
Did you jump ahead then?
You asked me what my number
'Cause
7 was.
Oh, maybe. What about your number 8 then? Did you do number 8?
Yeah. And number 8 was Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we just gave you a jump on it then.
You might have done.
We're on to number. Yeah, so we're on to number 6 then. What's you might as well tell us what your number 6 is then.
Yeah, so my number 6 to kind of throw a wrench into to everything we've been talking about, and it's probably not something anybody's going to see coming, but I have to give it appreciation anyway because of how absurd it is Requiem for a Dream.
Oh. Dude.
So for those that don't know, it's a film from the year 2000. It's an American psychological drama. It's apparently based on the 1978 novel of the same name. I did not know that. I did know about the screenplay. I did know about the
I completely missed it. I missed it, Nathan. What was it? What was the title again? What was the film?
Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, right. Now that was on my wish list for the longest time, and I've still never seen it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dad.
still never seen it.
It's definitely a psychological drama. It's full of basically you've got these young people. I don't think they're teenagers. I think they're a little older than that, but they're still, you can quite tell, not their heads aren't fully screwed on. They don't have the best ideas of the world, but they're clearly trying to make their way with their own ideas. And they all have varying different addictions, and that's kind of where the film plot goes into. You kind of learn about their problems and how they deal with their lives and their addictions that they deal with. Not just like drugs. Like one is about one is about drugs. Another one is about delusion and desperation. You've got like a mental problem that kind of happens to the mum of a character and stuff, and she literally ends up like having just these like horrible nightmare daydreams about because she always watches like typical daytime television. It's always like a game show, and she ends up having these like horrible waking nightmares about it, like while just in the daytime and stuff. For some reason, it ends up like possessing her fridge, I suppose, and it's just very, very strange. It's got a lot of dark scenes, a lot of like real troubling things for people to watch because it does deal with drug addiction. It does deal with terrible ways to pay debts and stuff like it. The whole point is it's incredibly dark, and it's incredibly like it really gets you thinking about these kind of things. It is psychologically strange and messed up, and it's got a good cast. It's got Jared Leto, it's got Jennifer Connelly, just to name a few. Marlon Wayans, for those who do know him, who tends to do more comedy things ever since. And so this was it was a very serious film with a lot of very dark meaning behind it. But I respect it. I respect for what it did, and it's because it didn't touch anything lightly. It was incredibly dark, and the music for it was actually really, really good, and that's probably one of the things I really remember about it.
Yeah, it had a really good movie
It
soundtrack.
Yeah, it had a really good soundtrack, despite the fact it was incredibly fucked up.
Yeah.
I think what I had that quite high on my wish list from way back from when it came out there in my original Movieland spreadsheet, which started around 2000. So it was one of the first films I had on my wish list. I think I've avoided it mainly because it was about drugs, and I'm kind of put off by. I didn't watch Breaking Bad for the longest time because it was about drugs. I thought, but I'm not going to be interested in that. And whereas when I eventually watched that, I loved it. So I'm sure the same will be true for this one. But I must watch this,
whereas
it sounds
Breaking Bad,
interesting.
like it's got good meaning behind the actions that are happening, and it ends up becoming like a really fantastic story. Requiem for a Dream, there's nothing fantastic about it. It's just like all the negative shit. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah. Well, it is a bit of trivia for this episode. We had The Exorcist from Anthony,
Yeah.
and Ellen Burstyn who plays the mother in that, is also in the star in this film. So she must play the lady that's kind of loses it. She's also in this.
That's
Same
right.
actress.
I believe that came up in that.
I didn't make that
documentary.
connection. Just goes to show you, you always come full circle.
You do, and also there's a Marvel full circle, isn't there? Because Jennifer Connelly's in it, I noticed. And didn't she play a Marvel character? There's a bit of trivia for you. Marvel character Jennifer Connelly.
Maybe.
Not sure.
I don't know. It's not coming to me. She might have been in one of the Marvel films. You could be right, or even the television series.
No, I'm thinking of Jennifer Connelly.
I just don't know who she would have been. And Anthony's going to have a look. Because
I could be wrong.
I do see her in Snowpiercer. That's something I'm watching once a week at the minute. Jennifer Connelly. CONNELLY.
Yeah. Oh no, she did. Yeah. No, sorry. Let's go back.
I want to say, I'm trying to remember if I'm
She
if I'm
was
right.
in a
I'm
movie
probably
with
back
David
to the-
Bowie.
I think she is married to the guy who plays Vision though, Paul Bettany.
Yeah. She
Oh,
was
is
in
she?
the Hulk. She was Hulk's Betty.
She was in the Hulk. Yep,
She played
that's
Betty.
right. She was Betty in the Hulk.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait,
And-
which?
Now
which
I
Hulk?
might be getting mixed up with
The
somebody else.
first one.
Ah, okay.
The one that nobody talks about. The 2003.
Right.
Then she is
2003
in,
one, yeah.
she's also in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh.
The Rocketeer.
Right.
That was quite a good movie. Labyrinth with David Bowie.
Yeah,
that's-
she's in that.
That's one of
I remember that.
in one of my
That's
top
another
movies.
great film.
Yeah, that is,
Yeah, no,
that
she's
is quite a classic.
quite, and Spider-Man from Far From Home.
I just don't remember.
So I was thinking of it might not be her. It was maybe another Jennifer who played opposite Daredevil. Who was the female superstar in the early Daredevil film? The female superhero. What's her face? Not Black Widow, but it was. Oh, I'm gonna have to look at it. I'm gonna check it out here. I'm gonna have to find all the way back. No, that's TV series. That was the film, which didn't do that
I do
well.
not remember that. Oh, that was a while back.
That was the Ben Affleck film. Jennifer Garner.
Oh
Jennifer
yeah,
Garner,
no, that's
Jennifer Connelly.
that's not.
Different
Yeah,
Jennifer. That's good thinking though. Good thinking.
It's a different Jennifer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were close.
Electra.
yeah, Electra.
Electra.
That's it.
Ah, okay. Now you say Electra. Okay, I see where you're coming from.
Hey, but there's John Favreau was in that film as well, and he played a different character, Franklin Foggy Nelson.
Another great name. Oh man, that's funny. That's real funny.
Well, that's it. So talking of people, actors who played multiple Marvel characters. I mean, what about we've been talking about Ryan Reynolds? Didn't he play another Marvel character before he played Deadpool? Wasn't
X-Men.
he
Yeah,
in
he was in X-Men.
Yeah, in the X-Men. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
His
that's
character there was Deadpool.
yeah. It
Or-
was an iteration of Deadpool.
Yeah,
which
but it wasn't called Deadpool. It was.
Oh, was it?
But
He was actually the same character. was
I
he?
think he was like Project X or something.
Yeah,
He was-
Project X.
Yeah, but he was supposed to be
Hey.
quote unquote like they're bringing about of Deadpool.
Yeah.
But because it was just so hated, they were like, okay, well look, he dies in it anyway. We'll just write that off, and we'll properly try to make Deadpool a thing again. Because everybody liked the idea of Deadpool. For those that do remember him from the Marvel comics and how goofy and everything he is, and they were like, oh, we'd love to see
From
Deadpool
off it.
Yeah.
in the films and stuff. And so they gave it a go. And what was it, X-Men Wolverine
Yeah.
Origins or something? And it was just
In
such
Wolverine
a bad.
Origins, he plays Wade Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So
absolutely
is that
Wade Wilson.
is he the same character? Is
Yeah.
he the same character as Deadpool then?
Yeah, because Wade Wilson is Deadpool, so yeah, I think that's why everybody made that
Right.
connection. And then it's
Yeah,
like, no,
and
this
at-
was bad.
In the end,
Right.
in the end credits of Deadpool, he goes back in the timeline.
That's right.
And was like,
Oh, Deadpool 2, wasn't
yeah,
it?
it took him out. So
I
yeah.
mean, that's why you got to appreciate
And
Deadpool.
there was that
so
scene
funny.
of the Green Hornet. Was it Green Hornet?
The Green Lantern,
Green Lantern.
where
He was
where he
like-
kills
That's
his
right,
Green
yeah.
Lantern
Yeah,
himself.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
that's
it's-
from the DC universe, isn't it? Not the Marvel
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
So that's allowed.
That's not Marvel. Yeah.
No, but it's still Deadpool doing what it does, breaking the fourth wall, he's aware that he's not exactly a real character, but he's like, well, I could just do whatever the fuck I want then. And it's just, they really, really capture that in the films. You gotta love it.
That's why, they're in the top 10 for sure.
He's definitely, he's in there for me. He's so well done.
Absolutely right. And again, for me, it was, I suppose, as much as anything else, the dialogue, just witty, so funny. And same with Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the film which
anything
people raved about.
Absolutely.
It didn't initially appeal to me, but when I watched it, the dialogue in that was just exactly. I agree. Chris Pratt is such a
and
great, funny
the soundtrack.
actor.
We had that going for months.
God.
That soundtrack.
Everything about Guardians. It was top notch. Like, you have nailed this.
Yeah. I mean, it's because it's 80s, isn't it? It's 80s classics, and it's almost like with Quentin Tarantino going back to his 60s classics. He's kind of using that to add to the atmosphere, and it's sort of like another character in the film. Really, it's so important to the film.
It's another tool to be used. The sounds, the music,
totally.
It all makes a film. Without any of that, you know, it's not going to work.
So where are you going with number 6, Anthony?
That's a juggle. It can either be RoboCop.
Ooh.
Good one.
Police Academy.
Oh, okay.
You know, that had some good actors, and there was skateboarding, and you know, it was a big bit of my childhood. That movie.
That's pretty
Absolutely.
fair. That's pretty fair.
So, it's a bit of a
RoboCop or Police Academy.
It creates some.
They're both like completely different, John. You know, different.
Yeah, but both stand in their own right as top movies.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'm not sure which one I'd go for 6.
Well, you can have a toss up between those two.
Yeah, you can have a little tie. It's tough.
Yeah.
There's so many good films.
Yeah, there's too many. Like,
I think it's fair. It's fair to have a tie between such, you know, things that you can believe are equal. I absolutely get that.
Yeah, because the first RoboCop, without a doubt.
Well, for me, it's the best of those 50s sci-fi films. And there's lots of other great sci-fi films from the 50s, but the best of the 50s sci-fi films for me is my number 6 is This Island Earth. And again, you've probably seen it if it didn't ring any bells, but it's certainly something that's been shown, still is shown on TV very often, and you can find it in full on YouTube. I think completely free at the minute. It's been, you might have seen it, Nathan, as a Mystery Science Theatre 2000 kind of spoof. It's been one of the features on that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, what a fantastic premise, where basically a famous kind of scientist, a top scientist, but he also happens to be a top pilot, is intrigued to get contacted by some very strange kind of futuristic or unearthly corporation that wants him to come and interview for a job, and they have him build a machine, a very futuristic machine. They send him all the parts, and it's really weird, and it already gets you into the idea that you're dealing with something not of this world, which is, so you're kind of on that journey with him, that ride to start with, and then he's then they send a plane, a pilotless plane, to pick him up and fly through some pretty nasty weather, which normal planes wouldn't fly through, and take him off to this mansion in the middle of nowhere. It's actually, I think he's in Georgia somewhere, and he meets up this crew of all the world's top scientists, and they're working to help this mysterious corporation to do something which we don't really know, but they start to figure out that it's a little bit. So the guys from the corporation are a little bit otherworldly, even they look a little bit strange, and also they start to figure out, and they start to realise, the people that are there, that there's something not quite right going on, and they probably need to escape, and so they try to make their escape, and then it all becomes clear what's going on, and they get taken onto this spacecraft off to another planet in a far distant galaxy where there's a big war going on. Very, very excellent film in my opinion. I really love watching it, enjoy it. I can watch it again. One of these films I could watch anytime. Wow. And in a link up to Anthony's things that kind of resonated and stuck with him and scared him as being a young person, when I was probably about I would have been about 3 years old, thinking about where this happened, because it happened in a particular house I remember, and I was only living there till I was about 3 or 4 years old. That was probably the first time I ever saw it. I got a glimpse of the film. I don't think I was allowed to watch it, but I snuck downstairs because I really wanted to watch it because it looked interesting. But towards the end, it got scary. There were some monsters involved, alien, kind of monsters. And there's a scene at the end where there's an alien that sneaks onto their ship, and that just gave me nightmares. I watched that from being 4 years old, and it gave me nightmares. it's always stuck in my psyche. It's always been something that's been scary.
When you see something like that at a younger age, it will stick with you.
Yeah, you're just never going to forget it, are you? Oh.
And then that will introduce you to a different film, and then that will do the same, and then the same, and the same. And you're in this world of films.
It's just incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that did sick me, and that's probably why I love that film more than all the other 1950s films that I love, sci-fi films that I love. That is the one that stands out, and it's not going to get moved. Even though I love Forbidden Planet and I love The Day the Earth Stood Still, this one is still always going to be my favourite.
Yeah.
So that's my number 6 all time. So we've got. Where are we? It's nearly 2 hours now. We're into this.
Yeah, shall
you
we
want to stick around and do the rest?
Here's what I'm thinking we do. So I'll do my number 6, and we'll probably call it for this episode. So that way we're like halfway through, and then we can all come back next week and do the last 5.
That'll give me a chance to
absolutely the top 5.
Really put ones down that I can actually really talk about.
We can really remember and prepare. We can give us a bit of time because like you said,
just thin it out.
Yeah, that's fine. It could be a 2-parter. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, excellent. No, I like that idea, especially because it's getting late and I'm working tomorrow, so I've got to get up early. So
exactly. Right. So I'll end it with my number 6 is it's going to be quite different. So this is a film from 1979. It's an American action thriller. Anthony, I know, definitely knows it. It's called The Warriors.
Right. Oh, damn. One of my favourite. You picked that from my...
It's a superb film.
Brilliant film.
I know it very well. Annie Mum knows it.
That's got another good soundtrack.
Annie Mum knows it.
Oh.
Warriors.
I mean, you've got street gangs. It's Coney Island. You've got 70s vibes and everything. Typical good old, street fights. Oh.
You know that scene where they meet up in that park? That big park?
Yeah.
That's a skateboard sport.
I'm not surprised. And they're getting chased by the the baseball guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when they got on the train after they're doing quite a bit of their running, and they're looking a bit worn and beaten because they have to run all the way home, and the baseball guys are on the train looking at them like, oh shit. Oh, what a moment!
Yeah, we have to sit and watch that again soon.
Dude, we have to. Oh, I absolutely love The Warriors. It's action from the 70s. It's goofy. It's perfect. It's such a great film in my opinion. I mean, it's so much fun.
It is. No, it's a superb film. It is. I was taking out the milk bottles tonight because we have a milkman twice a week.
Did you do the thing?
And I can't take I can't take milk bottles out without putting them on my fingers, without doing that, without going clacking them together, going Warriors, come out to play.
Multiple bottles or glasses. It's always that
every
comes in
time.
Superb.
It's so good. Oh god, I could watch that film so many times. It's so much fun.
Now, your mum just asked me. She's given us a little challenge. Can you name the leading man?
Oh, without looking him up, no.
No.
Right, she's just said I can't look it up, so... No, we can't, not without looking it up. Can you?
I should be.
James Beck.
You should be able to.
James Beck.
No.
James Beck.
Is
he the actor?
I've got Michael Beck or James Remar, but not James Beck.
Now I've got to look him up now.
Yeah, Michael Beck or James Remar.
Jeff Beck.
Michael Beck is Swan.
No, it's not. It turns out it is. Nathan said it's either Michael Beck or James Remar, I think he was.
James
Renner. James Remar.
Yeah, he's Ajax.
He plays Ajax. Michael Beck plays Swan.
Yeah.
He's the lead character.
Michael Beck.
Yeah, because Swan.
And
Swan
there is a James. Ajax is played by James. Right, and how do you remember that so well? I see. So you cheated.
It's all right. Well, we'll keep that between us.
She just happened to be watching it. She's watching it on YouTube the other day. That's why. Excellent.
Yeah, Michael Beck.
That is that's a good place to finish The Warriors. That it definitely is a superb film, and it's
Absolutely.
number 100 and something on my list. I think it's It is in my top 100 or close to.
Mine's in the top 5. It's got to be in the top 5.
It's so good.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Deserving.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Though.
No,
That's
it's number one.
because otherwise we'll be here. We'll be here just all night, another 2 hours easily. So we'll. We'll cut this into a 2-parter. I think that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
This has been great fun.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, till next time.
Absolutely. Thank you everybody for joining us for the first half. We'll see you for the second half next week. I'm so sorry you have to wait.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of suspense in it. That's what it's all about.
So much. What could our
Movie
top
land.
5 be?
Oh,
Give us your guesses.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
See if you figured us out yet.
Right,
All
I'll
right.
stop recording.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.